Welcome to Investors Hangout, brought to you by Aditya Birla's Sun Life Mutual Funds and Value Research. As investors, we're anxious as to how our investments are doing, particularly our mutual funds. To answer the queries as to how the choice of our mutual funds are doing and how do we evaluate them, we have the CEO of Value Research with us, Dhirendra Kumar. Dhirendra, we welcome you.
Thank you.
The first question, how do I evaluate the performance of the mutual fund scheme?
Assuming that you have chosen the right vehicle for your goal, because what we keep saying, let me just repeat it at the cost of sounding like a stuck record, that if you have chosen the right vehicle, which means you have segregated your money, the money which is needed in the short run, you have chosen the right vehicle. In money for the long run, you have chosen the right vehicle, multi-caps, balance fund, or whatever, depending on your need. Once you have done that, assuming that this is correct, then you have two things to look at, which is how it is doing vis-a-vis the benchmark. Every fund comes with a benchmark that if basically when you entrust your money to a fund, you are asking a fund manager that take my money and give me more return than the benchmark, than the index, which is because the index can be had without much of an effort. So if I'm entrusting it to a person, he should deliver me more. So that's one, how the fund has done vis-a-vis the benchmark. The other is that how good are you compared to your peers? That is what we are being taught all the time. So that is where you look at the category average, which Value Research compute for every category every day. So you look at it. But besides these two things, how you stack up against others of the same kind, and how are you doing against a dumb benchmark which was crafted to compare you, and having that benchmark is also mandatory. It is a law that every fund, before it starts, it has to choose that what is its stated benchmark, what it is trying to defeat. But I think there is a tricky part. These two things are relatively simple. The tricky part is that what is the time frame? If you start looking at the benchmark performance, whether the fund is beating the benchmark on a day-to-day basis, week-on-week basis, month-on-month basis, it's a futile exercise, because looking too much into those numbers may not lead you anywhere. So that is why you have to see that what is the appropriate time frame, and that time frame can change for different kind of funds.
Okay. So what you're saying is, don't go looking at your the performance of the fund every other day, every other hour.
Yeah, it will be a meaningless exercise, because if a fund
However, there must be something, say 1 year horizon, 2 year horizon, after which you should evaluate how your funds are doing.
Yeah, for different funds, there could be different time frame. For example, in a liquid fund, a weekly comparison is fine. Yeah. You can look at it because that is the typical holding period of an investment.
Right.
You are supposed to, invest your money and keep that money on call, and you can actually demand it anytime. But when you are investing in the long-term products, if you are investing in the balanced fund, if you are investing in an equity fund, then you have to see that compared to the benchmark, how it has done. Should I be looking at 6-month return, 1 year return? No, that will also give you, that will take you in the wrong direction. Because the best funds, what is the definition of a good long-term equity fund? A fund which falls little less than the market in a falling market, and fund which actually goes up little more in a rising market, and not by a wide margin. Because if it actually beats the market by a wide margin, which means that it must be assuming some great risk, which will visit you sometime when you least expect it. So it will come and hit you sometime. So if a fund is doing little better than in a rising market, and better than other funds, and falling market falls less, it's doing fine. And that is how numbers stack up over a period of time, in 2 years period, 3 years period. But I think the appropriate time frame for an equity fund, to my understanding, is a full market cycle. A phase of the market when the market has fallen, and a phase of the market when the market has gone up. And typically in a 3 to 4 years time frame, if you look at any previous 3 to 4 years time frame, you will figure out that it amply has both the phases of the market. We never had a phase of market where 4 years it just kept going up. or we had a phase of market where for 4 years it just kept falling. So in 4 years time frame, 3 to 4 years time frame, you are able to capture some part of both the phase of the market, and that is the appropriate time frame for an equity fund. Because if you just look at a rising market, and if you choose a fund which has done exceptionally well in a rising market, the other side of it, if it has no such experience, it will fall flat. It will be disappointing. We have seen that, something which is the best performing fund in a rising market, never able to replicate that in the other kind of market. A fund which actually does very well in a falling market never falls. It is also not able to rise in a rising market. So being in a range and looking at the full market cycle for comparison. So that's for the time frame.
So what I understand from this is that you need to remain invested for a period of 3 to 4 years, because then you have covered the whole
you have
cycle.
to evaluate the performance on 3 to 4 years time frame, because that is what you should be looking at. That will be a meaningful exercise. Because if you just get attracted by a fund which has done exceptionally well in a rising market, or a fund which has not fallen in a falling market, you haven't seen the other side of it, you will be disappointed overall, because your investment is going to be for many, many years.
Right. So comparing the returns sound like a simple mathematics. Are there any tools associated with the numbers while performing a check on a fund's performance?
Basically, what I have talked about so far is that you have to look at three things. One, look at the fund beating its benchmark in a somewhat consistent manner. A fund which is doing better than others of its similar of its own kind, and then looking at the time frame. Don't get carried by short-term time frame or appropriate time frame for different funds. If you look at our value research ratings, value research fund ratings, it captures all of it. Right. Because the rating is for a category. So it basically a 5-star or a 4-star fund reflects superior risk-adjusted performance within that category. That apart, we rate funds only when they become 3-year-old, which means that an essential track record is reflected.
Right.
Then the rating methodology is designed in such a manner that it is not very jerky. A fund must be doing well, because a fund which does well compared to others in a falling market and does better, a fund which falls less gets a superior score. So it's a quantitative methodology. We don't have any subjectivity involved in this process.
Okay.
So
and the category must have at least 10 funds.
So if it captures all the essential things, so use it as a good starting point.
Okay. So what Dhirendra is saying is that you need to compare the returns of the scheme vis-a-vis a benchmark. You need to compare the returns of the scheme vis-a-vis a category average and vis-a-vis the other funds in the same category. So it's time, Dhirendra, to move on to the questions that our viewers send us. And the first question has come from Vidya, and she writes, I have a saving of about 1 crore in short-term bank deposits. I'm planning to shift them to ultra-short debt funds for favorable taxation. I further plan to opt for the dividend option and invest that dividend through SIP in a equity fund. Would it be safe to do so?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a good idea. But I think, investing in an ultra short-term bond fund, the ultra short-term bond fund selection is good. Dividend option may not be a good idea, because dividend, you don't have any extra advantage. Then the dividend distribution tax makes it, comparable to almost the highest tax bracket. So why not choose the growth plan and move only the gain component on your all your investment?
Okay.
And it's a matter of, how you are structured on the tax front. If you're in the highest tax bracket, this transaction, investing in the growth plan and putting the growth every month in an equity fund, so it effectively amounts to designing a capital protection fund for yourself, moving the gains for growth and retaining your capital constant.
Sounds like a good idea.
Sounds like a good idea, but what I'm saying is that the dividend plans of any fund post high dividend distribution doesn't make sense. It will keep your transaction simple.
Okay. Rahul writes, I have accumulated sufficient corpus in aggressive hybrid funds to repay my 5-year car loan being serviced at 9%. Should I prepay my loan or continue to pay the EMIs and let the accumulated corpus grow for any further future goal? EMI?
My general
Pay
principle
fully?
is that you should carry on with any loan, which is to buy an asset which is of growing value. Any depreciating asset, you should not borrow money to buy that in the first place. But just in case you have taken it, it was a need, or you took a car loan, prepay it whenever possible. Because despite the fact that I'm optimistic that the markets will do well, your aggressive hybrid funds will do well, despite that, it's a depreciating asset. You might need to substitute your car in a few years' time. Then you'll see. But it's a good idea to be repaying or prepaying any outstanding loan taken for consumption or any depreciating asset.
Okay. I'm a widow, writes Shalini, and a mother of 1-year-old twins. I have received recently a sum of 50 lakhs as the life insurance proceeds of my husband. Where and how should I invest this amount? I am a working woman and I take home rupees 70,000 every month.
But what she hasn't asked is that, is there a need for income, or is there a need for supplementary income besides her 70,000 monthly income? That will actually, that will be the deciding factor in the kind of investment she should be choosing. Assuming that she has no monthly income requirement, supplementary income requirement, which means that this 50 lakh rupees can be invested for the long term for financial security, and it should grow reasonably. I would say that if that is the case, then choose a balanced fund. Okay. Invest and spread this money over the next 3 years, not even over the next 1 year, because it's a critical money. This is a very meaningful.
Into SIP for 3 years?
Spread the money, SIP for next 3 years, 36 months. And not only that, now you understand the value of insurance. And now your 1-year-old twins will be completely financially dependent on you. So buy a term insurance for yourself.
Right. Narasimhan writes, my fund has been underperforming for more than a year now. Should I sell it or just stop new contributions?
I hope, he is looking at underperformance. One is that, many a times...
but you always keep saying falling market, don't get out.
No, one is that. The other is whether it is underperforming or just falling. Because it might be a negative return, but it might be beating its benchmark. It might be better than other funds. What I was telling you in the earlier part of the program, that if a fund, if a fund has fallen 5% while the market has fallen 10%, you have done well. But it will not be a consolation. You will still be unhappy. Look at your underperformance carefully, and 1 year time period may not be good enough. As I was telling you that, take a full market cycle.
3 to 4 years.
There are phases in the market when many funds do poorly. And that is exactly the reason why they also do very well in a reversal of the market. So look at a longer time frame, how this fund did in both phases of the market. Last 1 year, most equity investors have every reason to be disappointed because market went down. But remember, 2017 was a period when equity funds went up in the region of 35% to 50%. Small cap funds went up by 50%, the average. There were outliers too there. And then the multi-caps went up by 35%. So if you have minus 10% in 2018, it is just moderating your return. 1 year time frame, not good enough. Look at the real underperformance and act accordingly.
Well advised. Yuvraj says, I have achieved my wealth creation goal by accumulating around 1 crore of rupees. Now I plan to redeem that money through a systematic withdrawal plan. Over what duration should I spread my redemption?
If it's for a goal, then you should have redeemed it periodically. Because if it is just for the heck of it, that you wanted 1 crore has happened and now you have to take it out. If it is for a spending plan, or if it is for any other plan in terms of starting a business, building a house, whatever, then do it on a as and when basis. But I would still see that, if this is to be spent, then it must match with your spending plans. If it is not so, if it is just to be moved into a fixed income because you want to derive the comfort, do it over the next 12 to 18 months if there is no such urgency.
So what should he define for himself? What is it I need it for? Do I need it?
Yeah, one is, do I need it? If this money, he wanted if this was the target that you wanted 1 crore and 1 crore has happened, but you don't know what to do with that 1 crore.
Yeah.
Your only target was to have 1 crore. Then just feel happy about it and let it be there. Maybe move 30% or 50% into fixed income so that all your money is not dependent on equity market, or if it scares you. But or as I said earlier, if it is linked to a spending or a consumption plan, then plan accordingly to your needs. But normally any spending or goal-oriented plan, you should start withdrawing it beforehand. Assuming that I need 50 lakh rupee for my child's education, and 12.5 lakh rupee is needed in the first year. So before I need the money, 1 year before that, I will take 1/4 of it. 12.5 lakh rupees, I will put money in the fixed income so that my spending plan is not dependent on the market. The next year's money, I will do it in the next year. So, there could be a 4-year withdrawal plan. But in the absence of any such goal, but one should try and match it with the consumption pattern.
Okay, Rajesh, I don't.
Yeah, you're not. Yeah.
Somebody by the name of Rajesh has sent this. I want to invest rupees 45 lakhs for a period of 3 years. Principal protection is of utmost importance. Which category of funds should I choose?
Ultra short term, to be very conservative, or short term bond fund, which do not take huge credit exposure. These are your only option. Okay. If you want to really approach it with a reasonable capital protection in mind.
Okay. And Ranjiv says my investment in mutual funds has earned the desired profits. Should I book the profits?
As we are actually, even in this market, we are getting a lot of happy investors who have achieved their goal. But I think, it's not a great way to start, because putting a profit target is not a starting point, because normally money is needed for perpetuity. Many a times you don't need money, but you thought that, okay, I'll have 1 crore, I'll have 50 lakh rupees, or if my money grows up by 15%, I'll take it out. Maybe have a rebalancing plan. Ideally, if you have a spending plan, or if you have a goal-oriented spending plan or a consumption plan, by all means, you want to buy your car in 5 years time frame and you start saving for that. Fortunately, you have achieved it in 3 years time. Take the money out and buy the car tomorrow. But if you're doing it for the long term, and you thought that, okay, I will be very happy if I have 10 lakh rupees. And if you have 10 lakh rupees, you don't need to necessarily put that money in fixed income. Because maybe moderate the risk, reduce your equity exposure, have a rebalancing plan. So depends. You just can't be driven by putting a target of return as a trigger to act. Spending plan, consumption plan, by all means, take your money out when you need it and do the needful.
Okay. Sumit Gupta says, my parents have already exhausted the maximum limit available under senior citizen savings scheme. They have rupees 50 lakhs more to invest. Where should they invest to generate a regular income?
2 more options of similar kind. One is that LIC's Pradhan Mantri Vyay Yojana, where one can invest 10 lakh rupees more, and it gets you return close to that. Okay. That's one. Post office MIP. It will get you little lower return, but it's also, and these 3 options together, I think they will be, one can invest another 15-17 lakh rupees. And remaining money, one should consider the conservative, income plans, because one is if you invest all your money in guaranteed fixed income, and if you consume all the interest income generated from that, your capital remains constant. So 5 years down the line, if your parents' need for income grows, which it will with inflation, then you will not have enough money. So you will not have enough money to supplement that. You should have your investment to an extent, to the extent possible, beyond after you have exhausted this. Maybe choose the conservative fixed, hybrid funds. invest that money, spread that money over the next 12 months or 18 months, and try and withdraw, do a systematic withdrawal plan. That, if you have 25-30 lakh rupees of this amount invested in them, you run the possibility of supplementing your income better. They are likely to grow little more than what you will earn from these guaranteed fixed income, where the money is absolutely safe, but you will get no more, no less, and your capital remains constant.
Okay. Well, that's all we have in today's program. And thank you so much for writing to us. And we are glad, Devendra, that you gave such valuable advice to all our viewers. Thank you so much. And as we always say, whether it is 2018 or 2019 or for coming years, kindly invest regularly and make sure that you do not falter. Signing off, Dhirendra and Rajesh. Bye for now.